My husband drained our joint account and ran off to Vegas with his 22-year-old soulmate. Said I was too old, too boring, too safe for his exciting new life. I just smiled and said, "Good luck." By the time he realized what I'd done, it was already too late. I was standing at the checkout, unloading a jar of olives and a tub of ricotta, when the message came through. No thunder, no lightning, just the dull little buzz of my phone, like the universe tapping me on the shoulder to remind me things can actually get worse. I left for Vegas with Ashley. She's 22. You're too boring, too old, and just too safe for my new life. It's over. I emptied the account. Consider it payback for years of boredom. You'll be fine. You always land on your feet. Touching. Practically a Hallmark card. All it was missing was a smiley face. For a second I couldn't breathe. Not from pain, more like my body just refused to believe what my eyes were reading. My heart was thudding somewhere in my throat. My ears rang. I stared at the screen like that would make the words rearrange themselves or disappear. "Card's not going through," said the cashier. "Want to try again?" I blinked. Tried again. Then again. Surprise, he wasn't lying. He took every last cent clean. I looked at the cashier and to my own surprise smiled. Looks like my husband decided he needed it more than I did. She frowned. I turned and walked out, leaving the ricotta and olives behind like a breakup with no hard feelings. Outside, it smelled like wet pavement and whatever sticky stuff those blooming trees put in the air. I used to love spring. Today it felt like a punchline. So dramatic, that text. Took him a while to write it, I bet. Probably enjoyed himself. He gets to be the flashy villain, and I'm just a convenient backdrop for his little reinvention tour. He thought I'd cry. Call him. Beg for closure. I got in my car. Typed, "Good luck, Michael," and hit send. That's all he was worth. One short good luck. Then I opened our banking app. Confirmation. The joint account was at zero. He even had the nerve to round it off. Like he wanted to leave a cinematic nothing behind. But then, I opened another tab. One he didn't know about. And I smiled. My name is Carolyn Bennett. 42. Managing director of a marketing agency in Chicago. A woman who's carried this marriage like a heavy, ugly purse for way too long. The last 10 years I was Michael's reliable background music. He called himself an entrepreneur. I called him silently a delusional liability. He tried it all: coffee shops, crypto seminars, ghost houses. Always the same dramatic flair. Always the same crash and burn ending. At best he wasted our money. At worst other people's. Then he'd sit at the kitchen table with his sad puppy eyes and say, "You just don't believe in my ideas." I did. I believed in us. For a long time. But there comes a point when even gravity stops making sense, if all it ever does is drag you down. He used to say I was steady. "You're like a rock, Carolyn. You make everything feel calm." Calm because I carried everything. Bills. Rent. Insurance. I was the rock. Which apparently is boring. And now I know when they call you the rock, what they really mean is, I can break you and not worry that you'll fall apart. Now he's with Ashley. A girl who probably still gets carded buying wine, but apparently has what it takes to join his new life. Logic clearly got lost in the same drawer as his failed business plans. I sat in my car staring at my phone and felt, not pain, not even anger, just emptiness. Cold, sharp, almost peaceful. The kind of emptiness where you can finally hear yourself think. I remembered something he once told me. You never take risks. That's what kills things. I'd nodded, silent back then. And now, years later, I finally get it. He wasn't talking about me. He was talking about himself. He was scared of my stability. It scraped against him like sandpaper. Because stability is a mirror. And in a mirror you have to face who you really are. He thinks he erased me. That he played it smart. That he won. But he was wrong. There were a few things I planned for. Funny really. He never realized he'd been a pawn the whole time. And the real game, it hasn't even started yet. I didn't realize right away that something was off. It wasn't a revelation. More like drops. One then another then a third. Then a puddle. Then a downpour. Started with shirts. He began wearing them. Ironing them himself. Even bought a steamer. I'm serious. The man who confused the washing machine with the dishwasher for 3 years suddenly discovered the magic of steam. I was actually happy at first. Thought maybe he was finally growing up. Or at the very least getting a job. But the job remained a myth. He was still looking for his big idea. That was his flag. His anthem. His personal war cry. I just haven't found my niche yet. But he had no trouble finding ways to spend my money. Well, ours officially. But mine, let's be honest. First, I made excuses for him. We all go through a search for meaning. Especially in our 20s. Sometimes even our 30s. Michael was 43. But hey, some people are just late bloomers. Or never bloom at all. I carried the weight. He dreamed. I paid taxes. He wrote Facebook manifestos for his 3 followers, including me and his mom. I ran the agency. He worked through his emotional blocks. I kept telling myself it was temporary, that everyone has potential, that maybe I was being too demanding. Then I started watching. Every little gesture. Every vague, I'll be home late. Every don't call, I've got a meeting. He started smiling more. Not at me, at himself. Started showering more than once every 3 days. His tone changed when he talked to me. There was a hint of condescension. Like I was his life's accountant, not his wife. He didn't argue anymore. Just nodded, yeah, sure, honey. The way parents listen to their kid explaining how they'll build a castle on the moon. And I knew. Not when I found the earring in the car. Not when he disappeared for the weekend and left a note saying he was with a friend. No name. I knew before that. I was just waiting for confirmation. And when it came, I didn't panic. I already knew what I had to do. One day he forgot to close his laptop. Open tabs. Messages. Photos. Ashley. First I thought maybe she's a client. Then I saw her lingerie selfie and the message. You were so sweet today after the fight with your wife. I didn't scream. I didn't smash the laptop. I just stood up, went to the bathroom and turned on the water. So I wouldn't hear everything breaking inside me. Then I made myself coffee. No sugar. Because this was bitterness. Not artificial. Real. He came home at 10. Smelled like someone else's perfume. Wore that smug look like he was the smartest man alive. Tough day. I asked. Yeah, he sighed. You have no idea. Oh, Michael. I have every idea. The next day he brought flowers. Apologized. Not for cheating, he didn't know I knew. Just, in general. You're the best, babe. I smiled and kissed his cheek. Even made dinner. I didn't throw scenes. Didn't interrogate him. Why bother? I didn't need explanations. I needed solutions. I started thinking. Coldly. Clearly. What did we actually share? Bills. Not property, everything was in my name. The agency too. But Michael knew passwords. Knew where the money went. Knew what could be split. That's when I first stopped thinking about divorce and started thinking about strategy. Because divorce isn't the end. It's a battlefield. And I wasn't stepping onto it barefoot. I talked to a lawyer. Calmly. No drama. I didn't change anything right away. People make mistakes when they rush. And the more I watched him, the less I felt. The pain went first. Then the fear. Then the resentment. All that was left was curiosity. How far would he go? And did he really think I wasn't seeing it? He disappeared more often. Stopped pretending to care. Eventually, he didn't even bother with excuses. Just left. Came back. Smiled. Like I was furniture. Or an app. Running in the background, always on, always ignored. I wasn't planning revenge. Revenge is for people who still feel something. I didn't. I had calculation. And clarity. If I wanted to survive, I had to act. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just smart. Michael went to Vegas. And I went to war. The house greeted me with silence and the smell of dust. Michael didn't just leave, his stuff was gone. The electronics, the clothes, even the chair he called his creative space. I looked at the empty shelves and inside I felt nothing. No pain. No shock. Just a strange stillness. On the kitchen table a note. You'll be fine. You always are. How thoughtful. I wonder how long it takes for a man to decide you're strong enough to live without him. Strong meaning, you don't scream. Don't chase. Don't nag. Which apparently means you don't love. It's strange. How quietly a life can collapse. Not like in the movies with flying plates, slamming doors, and screeching tires. No. Sometimes you're just standing in line at the grocery store, and you get a text. Then you come home, and the closet is empty, and your mind is buzzing, like the echo in a basement after an explosion. He left. No scandal. No explanations. Just picked a day, packed up, and vanished. Like I was never a wife. Just a temporary Airbnb. I didn't cry. I cleaned the floors. Seriously, he left, and I started scrubbing the kitchen like I could wipe him out of my life with the grease on the stove. That was my coping mechanism. Don't think. Do. Calculate. Write it off. Even in heartbreak, I was an accountant. I subtracted everything we planned from my future. Added what he took with him to the loss column. Toothbrush. A suitcase full of clothes. Half a life. But the really interesting part came later. When I kept going to work. When I didn't disappear, didn't fall apart. I just kept living. Calmly. Steadily. No drama. And that's when the irony really kicked in. People started looking at me with pity, and talking to me like I was clueless. In their eyes, I became that woman. The one who didn't notice. Too busy managing bills to see her husband slipping away. The one who mistook silence for peace, instead of indifference. To them, I was that reliable woman who apparently puts up with everything tattooed on her forehead. They didn't get it. Calm doesn't mean naive. It means control. And silence isn't weakness. It's the moment I start running the numbers and building a plan. Not for revenge. No, for escape. When you run off to Vegas with your mistress, you like to think you're James Bond. Suave, confident, flashing a luxury watch and an unlimited bank account. Never mind the wrinkled Viva Las Vegas t-shirt and the second credit card with your wife's name on it. What matters is the swagger. Michael, of course, wasn't Bond. He was, well, Michael. The guy who always put on a confident face when he had no idea where he was going, and said, "I've got it under control," right when things were clearly spiraling. A mutual acquaintance, a friend of a colleague, happened to spot him at a mall in Vegas. Said he was red-faced and sweaty, standing at an ATM that loudly spit his card back out, yelling into his phone, "That's my money. That's my account. Is she out of her mind?" People were turning to stare. Naturally, nothing went according to plan for him in Vegas. He cleaned out our joint account and didn't even bother doing it discreetly, just wired a fat lump sum to his personal account in one go like I wouldn't notice. I noticed. And I called the bank immediately. A couple of days after his grand escape, I got a message from the bank. Dry and emotionless. Attempted transaction on a temporarily blocked card. Client has been notified of restrictions. It was satisfying. Pity I couldn't see his face at that moment. He must have tried to use the card where he'd stashed our joint funds. The one now under investigation. The bank didn't waste time. Temporary freeze on all accounts connected to the suspicious transaction. And all of it perfectly legal. I filed a report. They acted swiftly and by the book. Then the rumors started. Ashley, yes, the young love was pretty active on Instagram. At first it was glam. Cocktails, casinos, selfies in front of hotels. But after a week the stories got less shiny. The margarita glasses were replaced by vending machine coffee. The pool view swapped for a parking lot. And then they disappeared completely. Radio silence. But the whispers stayed. I'd heard he was seen at a local bank branch, loudly demanding to speak to a real manager, not this suit-wearing robot. He was yelling about how it was his account, his money, and he'd take care of it. A receptionist who happened to work there later told my friend he was red as a lobster, and so worked up that the security guard already had his hand on the walkie-talkie. They told him the freeze was temporary, filed by the other account holder. He just had to wait. Of course he lost it. Not because he didn't understand what was happening, but because he couldn't control it. And worst of all, he couldn't hide that from Ashley. Ashley, judging by her stories, had different expectations. Probably promised yachts and shopping sprees, and ended up in a motel with a carpet that stuck to your flip-flops. Instant noodles. Plastic forks. And endless money talks. All of them loud. About a week later he tried to call me. I saw the missed call. I didn't pick up. Then came the message. "Caroline, I think we both overreacted. Maybe we should talk calmly. Calmly. You stole everything we built, Michael. You ran off like a coward and left me with, you always land on your feet. Yeah, I do. Just not with you anymore. I didn't respond to that message either. About a month later, he came back to Chicago. Without Ashley. I guess she got tired of lunch vouchers and the puke-colored motel carpet. I knew he'd come back. Guys like him always do. He thought he was still in the game. That he could claim his share of my business. Talk to a lawyer. Make a scene. He probably believed he could show up and demand half of everything. That I'd foot the bill for his new life, the rentals, the resorts, the parties with girls. But when he tried to make a deal, they told him, there's no share in this business under your name. All documents are with the notary. Would you like a copy? My business had always been mine. I built the agency from the ground up, worked nights, managed clients, grew the team. Michael never spent a day in marketing. He was always finding inspiration and knew how to turn on the coffee machine. That's about it. But he was my husband, which meant that in a divorce, he could have tried to claim a share as marital property. Unfortunately for him, the law isn't always about fairness. So I prepared in advance. First, I opened a personal account in my name. All major transfers went through it, office rent, employee salaries, taxes, everything tied to the agency. Then came the paperwork. I gave Jenny, my assistant, legal power of attorney. She knew me better than Michael ever did. We'd worked together for 6 years. She'd seen me build the agency from scratch, working late on presentations while Michael doodled logos for his revolutionary water delivery app. We signed an agreement, part of the assets legally under her name but effectively under my control. All through a lawyer. Not because I didn't trust her, but because I'd learned to document trust. Next, intellectual property. For years I wrote articles, taught courses, created brand strategy templates. All quietly sitting in the cloud, bringing steady income. Michael called it, your little side gig. Meanwhile, it was all copyrighted work. I registered it under my name. Michael could scream all he wanted about his contributions. But my name was on every document. Always. He showed up at the office. New nameplate on the door. JT Creative. Director J. Thompson. Yeah, that Jenny Thompson, the one he once called a four-eyed little mouse. Turns out the mouse has claws. He tried the door. Locked. Stood there for a bit. Then sat on the bench across the street. And me? I was at the cafe across the road, sipping a cappuccino, watching him like a ghost from a badly written past. Wrinkled shirt. Dead eyes. He looked vacant. Not even an enemy, just a blank space. 2 days later I got a message from him. Caroline, let's not fight. We don't have to be enemies. I made mistakes. So did you. Let's start over. No, Michael. I didn't make mistakes. You thought I'd scream, cry, chase after you? Nah. I just signed the papers. Handed things over. Closed the door. You always said I was too rational. Said I lacked passion. That I didn't know how to give in to feelings. You were right. I don't give in. I plan. I act. And I walk away. Later, he tried reaching out to Jenny, playing the co-owner card. Told her we could talk it out like adults. She sent me the screenshot. Caroline acted impulsively. I'm not holding a grudge. But business is business. We need to talk. We laughed. For like 5 minutes straight. A few days later he messaged her again. Tell your boss she'll regret this. She showed it to me, shaking her head. He's trying to threaten us? She said. Caroline, I mediated my mom's divorce with my stepdad. I could manage a nuclear launch. This isn't a threat. It's a comedy set. I smiled. I didn't do anything illegal. I'd simply cleaned up. Took what was mine. He chose to leave, fine. But not with my things. Not with my money. Then the calls started. From him. His mother. His friends. Caroline, come on. He made a mistake, but we're talking about money. He's your husband. You were together for 10 years. He contributed ideas. He deserves something. You could have just split everything fairly. Sure. Like he fairly emptied our joint account? We had a house. Not a mansion but cozy. I didn't touch it. Why bother? Let him keep it. With the mortgage, the broken dishwasher, and the stale memories of old happiness. That house was his anchor. It was never mine. He thought he struck first. Thought draining the account would leave me lost. But I'd stopped playing his game a long time ago. By the time he took the money, I no longer needed it. By the time he vanished, I'd already made space. By the time he betrayed me, I'd already stepped out of his shadow. He was just late, as always. And honestly, there's something deeply satisfying in that. Not revenge. Not rage. Just the quiet knowledge that he thinks he burned my world down, but never even touched it. He found out about the court ruling before I did. I gave myself 20 minutes to celebrate, with a lavender latte and a calm told you so to my reflection in the bakery window. Michael, as I learned later, took the news differently. He threw a mug at the wall, smashed the TV screen, and screamed into the phone like yelling at your lawyer might somehow change the law. He had big plans. He wanted half of everything. He wanted compensation, respect, bows, and ideally me in ashes while he raised a glass. The court gave him exactly nothing. Except the house, which I offered myself, because I didn't want the memory of him clinging to my walls. Michael lost. And that very night, while he sat in the kitchen surrounded by court papers, cold pizza crusts, and the smell of self-pity, he hatched a plan. He didn't just want revenge. He wanted to destroy. Not kill, but erase everything I'd built, burn my name until it crunched beneath his old boots. The ones he bought before Ashley walked out, taking the shampoo and what little was left of his dignity. I didn't know it all at once. Of course not. The really good hits always come from behind. It started with a client. Polite, almost too polite. A young eco-startup founder. Perfect for our campaign. He spoke the lingo, understood metrics, pitched a reasonable budget. Said his name was Alex Rivers, and dropped corporate buzzwords like he'd grown up in a cubicle. He wanted us to promote his platform. He wanted me to oversee it personally. The team fell for him. Catherine, my best copywriter, called him a dream client. Max, our designer, suddenly started showing up on time. On calls, Alex was charming. His follow-up emails came faster than I could say synergy. And it would have all been fine if it weren't for that feeling. That too perfect feeling. Like he didn't just want to work with us, he really wanted to be liked. Like every word he said had been rehearsed. Like he knew exactly how to win everyone over. 2 weeks in, things started to crack. Alex disappeared for a few days. Came back with apologies and revisions that contradicted everything we'd already approved. Then he claimed the team was moving too slowly and started sending moody emails. Not just to me, he looped in the whole agency. Catherine and Max got nervous. He started showing up unannounced, nitpicking interns, questioning my decisions out loud. And then boom, a LinkedIn post. A rage-fueled rant accusing my agency of missing deadlines, distorting his brand, and me personally of unprofessional behavior, lying to the client and blaming my team. It blew up. Hundreds of shares. And the comment section, oh, the trolls who hate women in charge had themselves a feast. While I was busy putting out that PR dumpster fire, the real rot had already started. Catherine came to me the next day, face like stone, and said she was tired of being a pawn for my whims. Max muttered something about too many decisions happening behind the scenes. One by one they started to drift. Alex, as it turned out, had wormed his way in not just as a client, but as a confidant, telling them I was too harsh, that they weren't appreciated, that he wanted to help them grow, feeding them lies while I fought media flames. And then it ended. Called in legal. We went through the files. No signed contract with Alex Rivers. Just emails. No signature, no legal entity. None of us had checked his company because really, who does that when the guy talks the talk and pays on time? Well, now we checked. The company didn't exist. The website? A template. The team photos? Stock images. The name? Fake. And that's when it hit me. Michael. Only he knew how I negotiated. How much I value quick, clear communication. How my team reacts to a charismatic client. It was a perfectly tailored trap. Almost perfect. Michael had help. A freelancer he paid to role-play the client. His name was Bryce. And he wasn't dumb. But he was pissed. Because Michael never paid him in full. And Bryce, bless him, turned out to be a drama lover with a moral compass. He came to me. With emails. Recordings. Receipts. And oh, I made it beautiful. a press release with facts, an interview with Bryce, screenshots of conversations, and the cherry on top, an open letter on an industry blog. I didn't name names, but I spelled out the scheme so clearly everyone knew. I wrote, when a man can't destroy a woman directly, he tries to poison the air around her. But even poison loses power once its formula is exposed. The next morning, the team came to my office. No words. Max set a coffee on my desk. Catherine dropped a printout of Alex's fake profile, terminated. I nodded. No apologies needed. Balance restored. And Michael? He got the house. And a pile of debt. And a defamation lawsuit. And a tabloid article that read, ex-husband of businesswoman Carolyn Bennett caught faking a client to ruin her career. Ends up alone and exposed. Last I saw, he was getting kicked out of a co-working space where he tried to pitch his post-divorce consulting platform for men. I didn't feel victorious. It wasn't sweet revenge. It was balance. A world where snakes crawl back into their holes. Where you breathe in, and the air is finally clean. And me? I stood tall. Because I knew how. And because I decided no one's taking my name, my voice, my business. Or me. Sometimes I still wonder. Did I go too far? Maybe I should have just walked away quietly. No blocks, no banking acrobatics. Maybe I overdid it. Or maybe I didn't do enough. I wasn't seeking revenge. I just refused to be the victim. But hey, maybe I'm wrong. Tell me honestly. Did I do the right thing? And what would you have done? Maybe you've been through something like this. Tell me, what did you do? Subscribe.